Thank you for joining the Become a Billionaire with Me podcast. We'll journey together through the process of finding, evaluating, and purchasing our first multifamily apartment. On this show, we'll also bring in industry experts to share valuable tips that will help us become billionaires together. Here's your host, Multifamily Martin.
Welcome, guys. Today on the Become a Billionaire podcast, we have a very special guest, Azriel. Azriel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. I was really glad to be here. So just to introduce myself, my name is Azriel Avezbadalov. I'm with Multifamily Equity Partners. Originally, I'm actually I was born in Russia and immigrated to the United States. So I grew up in New York City and very happy to be there. And then recently moved to Florida because we just my family got tired of the cold weather. So we love living where people vacation.
Yeah. What part of Florida, if you don't mind me asking?
We're in Boca Raton.
Oh, okay. Great. Awesome. Yeah, my family and I took a trip in January there. I was surprised how warm it was, but yeah, awesome, beautiful place all year round, huh?
Yeah, beautiful place, especially now is the time that the hurricane season over, the heat waves are over, so it's really
That's awesome. Great. So Azriel, let's get started here. Tell us a little fun fact about yourself.
Yeah, so for myself, a fun fact. So I actually, one cool thing about me is I actually love to play Monopoly. And I play quite a bit, teach my kids to play, and so I think that it's a great game that a lot of financial education can be gathered from there.
Yeah.
And also from there, I did extend to cash flow quadrant from
Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, that's an awesome game as well. Yeah,
it is.
That's awesome.
I do like Monopoly a lot, and I love playing. I love playing with people one-on-one. Or at least as a group, because you can really learn a lot about the way a person thinks and how they approach problems and try to find solutions.
Awesome. That's great. That's definitely fun games. Great. So yeah, how did you get into this multifamily business? I see you're pretty active in some of the Facebook multifamily groups. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this business?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was in my teens, I was into different types of businesses, and I was I had a strong entrepreneurial spirit, and I really enjoyed developing businesses and working on them. And I had smaller projects back then, and then as I grew older, they became larger and larger. And so for me, when I got introduced to real estate approximately 6 years ago, I got what really attracted me was the operation side of it. I know that there's a lot of people who buy single family and they do rehabs and they fix and flip. Yeah. I'm not a flipper. I don't have a keen eye for the renovations the way that some of my partners do. Mm-hmm. But what I focus on, what I'm really intrigued by, is the business, the branding, the marketing, the operations side. How do we automate? How do we leverage technology? How do we use what we have today to add value to our customers, which are tenants? Mm-hmm. Now, one small fact about me is that personally, so if you go back, during my high school, college years, I was delving into different ventures. Mm. At the same time as at that time, I did go into medicine and actually became a physician by trade.
That's right.
So that's kind of one thing about me that that can be interesting if you think about it, because I applied all the skills that I learned and all the lessons from my mentors into being as successful as I can be in medicine, and I continue to apply that now in the different business ventures that I have.
Yeah. Wow, that's super awesome. Do you still keep in contact with any of your old colleagues?
Yeah. We're great friends. Some of them actually invest with us, which is cool.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. They're great investment partners to bring on, right?
Yeah, because the thing is that everyone's got kind of a path. Some people, they went and they opened an office and they went into the business of medicine, which is great for them, and they're successful, and I wish them all the best. And then from my end, I just pursued and went into the business of real estate, which is just a different type of business.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. What would you recommend for a newbie who's trying to get into this business?
So we're all learning at every stage. So I just really, a question of what stage you're in. There's the only two things that I would really recommend, and this is advice that was given to me by my mentor, is the first of the two is have a mentor. Have someone to guide you, to work with you, to mentor you, because this isn't like this business is a business like any other. It requires work, it requires knowledge, it requires understanding, it requires a team effort. So have a mentor, have a teacher, have a coach who you can rely on to guide you and to steer you, because whatever the price is, it doesn't matter, because what it's going to save you and what it's going to prevent the problems from kind of happening, and some people get knocked out completely from this business altogether because of one catastrophic mistake that so have a mentor. The second thing is to be persistent. Really, especially when you're new, you just got to keep trying. Just keep trying. Just like we have a newborn baby, and he's actually it's our fifth child.
Congratulations! That's awesome.
So we're really happy, and he's now, I think, like 5 months old. He's around 5 months old. So he's just learning how to crawl. So that persistence and that drive to just keep trying. That's what you got to have. And as a new, as someone who's starting new, you just got to keep persistent, keep going, because you'll get there.
Yeah, never give up, right? That's awesome.
Never give up.
That's great. If you were to start over, what's one thing that you would change? What should I know that I don't know now, jumping into this multifamily space?
Yeah, one thing that if I was to start over, so the advice I would give myself, looking back to the beginning, is I'll just say that the multifamily space and the let's say an apartment building and acquiring a building and so on, it really does take a lot of effort. And it takes a team of teams. So doing it all by yourself would be a mistake. And the suggestion would be to say, look, everyone has their specific specialty, and so just choose a specialty for yourself and then focus on developing that specialty. So whether you are a person who can source deals well, or you can finance deals well, or you can do asset management really well, whatever is your specialty, just choose one, develop and work on it, and don't try to do everything at the same time, because that's how you can scale. No one can scale doing everything.
Yeah. Okay. What would you say is the hardest thing about this business?
The hardest thing? Your ego.
Ego?
I've seen people. There's a lot of books out there talking about owning real estate and having your own this and having your own that. And I'll tell you that for people, it's we have turned away and refused to work with people because their value is shifted from making money altogether to their ego. And so if you can just put that aside, focus on the prize, that we're all here together, we're all here to make money, and we're all here to succeed. Everything else is really secondary.
Wow, that's great. That's great. I've been doing real estate for a few years now, mostly single family. and I'm taking the step into the multifamily. The one thing about, doing this in the single family is, there's a lot of difficulties in that aspect. One of the hardest things I found was, finding the deal. And I'm wondering, is it just as hard to find a deal in the multifamily space? And if so, what's the best way to find a deal?
Yeah, it is hard to find deals.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that in single family, there's an idea, and the same applies to multifamily. In single family, there's an idea that, hey, any house that you buy can be a perfect fit for a specific model.
Yeah.
Right? Some are fix and flips, some are rentals, some are, you can wholesale. There's different strategies for single family. Multifamily is similar, but it just has different options. So there, the market changes, and so today it's hard to find like a home run deal that you can buy and you can reliably say, hey, this is going to make me a ton of money and this is super easy.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't buy a property that's perfect for a different model. So standard models, they may not work and they may be difficult to find. Yeah. But you can try out-of-the-box thinking. For example, is the seller willing to finance? Mm-hmm. Are you able to assume the loan? Because people have gotten great loans, and instead of just getting a new loan with new financing, you could just assume the financing. Yeah. Is it possible to, do a wraparound mortgage? There's a lot of different structures that you can think about that would help to acquire the property, mm-hmm. and at the same time is make the deal work. Yeah. And this is where the successful people kind of differentiate themselves, because they have all these different options in their belt.
Yeah, some creative ways of getting the deal done, right?
Yeah, we saw people who, for example, we were evaluating a property in North Carolina, 279 unit, and yeah, you try to be as aggressive as you can with the pricing. Mm-hmm. So you put in 22 million, 23 million on the LOI, but at the end of the day, all that is based on your underwriting, which is based on what is the business plan you're going to put together and how you're going to create additional revenue. Because if you go off the standard model, all the deals are too expensive. But if you say, hey, I want to put storage units, hey, I want to do something with maybe covered parking or do some vending machine, some other way to get income, all of a sudden the deal now starts to come to light, starts to make sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. And guys, for our listeners, you mentioned LOI, the acronym. LOI stands for letter of intent, just in case any of our listeners weren't aware of that. Great. I know you mentioned, owner financing, but what is the best way to fund a deal? Because I know there's a few different options, right? Owner financing, you can, go the traditional commercial, you can raise money. Given your experience, what's your favorite way to fund a deal?
My favorite way to fund a deal is to essentially have if I can have investors work together, mm-hmm. people that I trust, and we go into the deal together, and then eventually we do that. That's kind of my favorite way. But there are many other ways. There are standard ways, for example, getting commercial loan. Mm-hmm. You can also engage in, try to do seller financing on a piece of it. There, you can assume the mortgage, okay? At the same time, as there are other creative ways. For example, people may think that, there's equity in my house. You can refinance your house and you can fund a deal that way.
Yeah.
You can fund a deal by, raising money from friends and family, and then there's additional ways as people just invest passively. Mm-hmm. And then build that equity, and eventually they, can go ahead and buy something on their own.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've seen is from some of the investors that we talk to is they have to ask themselves a question: is owning a property that produces a 6% return, is that really better than if you passively invested? that gave you a 15% return.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so this is where like the ego comes into play. Is you have to ask yourself, well, what do you know? Does owning the property make me feel like I have a property, and it makes me feel better, and say, hey, you know, like I have a property, even though your returns when you calculate are really, really poor.
Yeah.
If you just invest it passively, you don't have to do anything. You just, you know, you put the money, and it's working, and you do your job, or you do whatever you're doing, and so therefore, at the end of the day, your returns are more.
Yeah.
And so this is a choice you have to make.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm definitely looking at the passive route. I've been evaluating a few syndicators, and people are putting together syndications to kind of, you know, get my feet wet, gain some experience, learn from them, you know, see what type of reports they send out to their investors, you know, kind of watch them from the back, but, you know, still have my money in play with them. So yeah. That's great. I think that, you know, when I got into, you know, the single family investment arena, I think one of the hardest things for me was, you know, finding the right vendors to work with, right? You know, I'm part of a bunch of, you know, groups on Facebook, you know, wholesaling groups, you know, flipping groups. And, you know, a lot of people will post things like, oh, I'm a cash buyer, or I can fund your deals. And, you know, when they put their contact information in there, it's like very unprofessional. It's like a Gmail email address. So, you know, it makes me think like, how authentic are these people, right? Are they just trying to, you know, rip me off or whatever? So I think one of the hardest things for me when getting into the single family investment business was finding the right vendors to work with. If you don't mind, what top vendor or vendors would you recommend?
I mean, the vendors that you work with, we don't have any specific that are top. We just work with different groups in different markets.
Yeah.
The thing is that I can tell you that, like, you know, the relationships that you develop, those become the ones that you can rely on. So we get those relationships from two places. Number one is from our mentors and our groups, and you know, we have there's a circle, and you get to know everybody in that circle. You know who's who and who's good and who's not, and what people can do. You know, so if I needed to raise money, I know who to turn to, who can deliver. If I needed to, you know, find a deal, I know who can do that as well. And so you build that network from the groups that you're with. The second place is if you had to, let's say, find a property manager, someone in construction, whatever it is, whatever market you're in, you just start doing a survey. You ask around, and eventually you get people to kind of give you pricing and give you some listings, and eventually you choose the one that you like the best. But this is all based on relationships. For example, the brokers that we deal with, you know, we constantly have, you know, contact with them. We call them, we talk, what do you guys have? What do you guys have? And we nurture those relationships. Which is important. And then eventually something comes to be, and we move forward on it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it seems like it's definitely a relationship business, and you really just have to put your name out there and tell people what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Great. What's one of your favorite books or audiobooks?
Oh, I have a lot of great books. It's like asking which is my favorite child. But there's a bunch of great books. I could give you two. One is called Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale. It's an older one, but it's a good one because what it is it's about just learning and you know, it covers a lot of like different concepts within your within the way we approach, the way we see the world. And so it talks about, you know, your attitude and how that affects the decisions that you make and how it goes. So it's really a fantastic book. And there's also the book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
Oh, awesome.
It talks about as well. That talks about the power of persistence and consistently doing small things that add up into colossal and monumental changes, and how it compounds. And so this is the fundamental aspect of investing as a whole, where you make small contributions every day, but eventually they add up to millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So it's really well reinforced in that book.
Wow, that's awesome. Those are sound like two great book recommendations. People always say, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Think and Grow Rich. Like those are the two popular ones, but those definitely sound interesting. In fact, I just listened to a podcast on the plane a few weeks ago called The Compounding Effect, and I think it's very similar to
Compound Effect. Yeah,
Compound
that's
Effect,
a great book as well.
Yeah, and it discusses, just these small little changes, but at the end of the year or time period, it just builds up into massive, wealth.
So the Slight Edge is like I think the Slight Edge, I think it came out before Compound Effect. I'm not certain, but it's like a more there's more that's written in there, more concepts, which I think is great. So if you like the Compound Effect, you're gonna love the Slight Edge.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out.
Yeah. And Lead the Field, it's an older book. It's from it's like 40, 50 years old, but it's still a great book because the concepts are reinforced over and over again.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I love those classic books. That's great. Awesome. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, if people want to get in touch with me, they can just call me. I mean, I have my number is 646-671-9252. This is a great way to just call or text for anyone who is interested in, if they have any good properties or anything to discuss, or they could just go on our website and they can get hold of us over there. It's mfepartners.com. So it's Multifamily Equity Partners. It's mfepartners.com.
Awesome. Great. Awesome, Azriel. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been super helpful. It was great to learn a little bit about you, what you're investing, how you're investing, and, thank you for all the feedback. And I'm sure our newbie listeners will enjoy your advice as well.
Yeah, it's all great, Martin, and it was a pleasure being here. And again, keep up the great work. Don't stop, because eventually it's all going to compound into something great. Right. Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care. You got it. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Become a Billionaire with Me podcast. If you liked what you heard, please help by giving us a 5-star review on iTunes. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to make a comment in the comment section. Let's become billionaires together.